With all the uncertainty entering the college football season, which starts almost in full this weekend, and then concerning the Power Five of the Big 12 and the ACC in play coming up the following weekend, September's 10th, 11th, and 12th. With all that uncertainty, I guess the one thing that we can say in certainty about this season is that we go into this season with more drama than ever when we've got two complete Power Five conferences, one definitely not going to play, one that's scheduled to play, canceled a few days later, and now is waging a war between the institutions, the commissioner, the presidents, the academia, and the players, the coaches, the fans, and the parents. And there's a battle that's waging, and we've got two theories out there in regards to what the Big Ten could possibly decide for a season, a modified season. First of all, the announcement was we're going to try to play in the spring, which sounded more like a winter schedule. And then, of course, the rumor circulated in the past week about a Thanksgiving weekend opener for the Big Ten. And now we're hearing so that the conference can compete for the college football playoff and catch up with the other three conferences, the Big 12, the SEC, and the ACC, that possibly an October 10th Big Ten opener is being discussed. Fingers crossed, because that is the only reasonable and sound conclusion to this mess for the Big Ten and for college football, is that the conference decides to start on October 10th. I've looked at the calendar. I have pieced together a 10-game schedule in 12 weeks that would catch the Big Ten up with the other three conferences in time to compete in the college football playoff the second week of January, in which the Big Ten could start on October 24th. But of course, the October 10th startup date sounds much, much better and more beneficial to me, which would give them 2 more weeks wiggle room to cancel and postpone and reschedule games. Mark Rogers TV here, the voice of college football. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We've got 30 quickly on the line. We appreciate that. As you've maybe noticed over the past several weeks, we have done our best to provide you with more call-in shows, because that's personally what I like to do more than anything. It's called talk directly to you, whether that be to catch the conversations in the live chat. So whether you're just talking trash amongst yourselves and greeting each other, I find some satisfaction when it's conveyed to me from time to time that many people have met and become connected on social media through Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. So that's great to hear, and I love to see the conversations. They're amusing, they're insightful. Once in a while, they're a bit disturbing, but generally amusing and insightful, and just a lot of fun to see you guys interact in the live chat. And of course, leave your comments, your questions, and your debate topics there in the comment section, unless you want to bring them directly to me at 860-325-3687. We remind you that the super chat is on. It is just one of many ways you can help us here build the voice of college football, which would be to like the video. Before we get started, before we really dig into the scene right now, with just days to play until football, hit the like button, and then you can get that out of the way, and we can move on to talking college football. Of course, share the videos on social media, whether they be the taped segments that we deliver each and every day, or these live stream links, so people can jump in here. The more the merrier. 36 on the line. We topped out at about 180. What was that, Monday night? So we were here Monday night. The last few call-in shows have done extremely well, so thank you. And of course, we've got our exclusive live streams that we deliver each and every week. Ohio State, Florida State, and Miami. We did the Seminoles last night, and we come back next Tuesday night with Florida State football talk. We've got Ohio State coming up Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern time, regardless of who you root for. Just like tonight, we've got, I see Nate, Michigan fan, Cheryl, Ohio State fan, Anthony, I don't know fan, Dale, I don't know fan, Mickey, I believe a Florida State fan off the top of my head, Mark, Michigan fan, So as I always like to say, would love to know how long you've been watching and who you root for if I don't already know. Let's look at the live chat. David Johnson off the top. Good to see you, David. Nate the Great, don't be late. Nate Kingston. George, Florida fan, of course, joining us tonight. The big news of the day, of course, is that Jamie Newman, the transfer from Wake Forest to Georgia, 26 touchdowns, 11 picks for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons last year in his one full starting season, start to finish, in 2019 after taking over after an injury in 2018 and playing well down the stretch for Wake Forest. Actually, he played better on game-winning drives in close games to pull out games for Wake Forest in 2018, even though the stats would be better in 2019. My concern for Jamie Newman playing for Georgia this year was that he played his worst against the better teams and in the clutch situations. He built his resume last year. His stats came largely in the blowout games against the inferior teams. But we will never find out because Jamie Newman has decided, whether it's related to who has been selected as the starting quarterback, whether he sees the writing on the wall, or he genuinely wants to prepare for the NFL draft and he's concerned about the coronavirus. I would never speculate and never will speculate on what's going on between two ears of an athlete or a coach or administrator or anyone. I've stated that many times here. It often rubs me the wrong way when I see analysts, sportscasters, and pundits tell us what people are thinking or how much pressure they feel. We can speculate on that. We can conjecture. Now, if somebody, by the words that come out of their mouth, we can add them up, then we can determine, okay, they're thinking this based on all the things that they've said and stated, or their actions are telling us what they think. But when somebody makes a decision and they state, and I don't even know if Jamie Newman stated this. I know that it's been stated on social media that it was NFL related and coronavirus related. I don't know that he did. And I apologize because I actually read his statement all of like 45 minutes ago and I don't remember. Thank you so much, whoever it is, for the Super Chat contribution. I will get that to the screen here soon. Enrique, appreciate that. Thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. It will be put to good use. I have done this maybe once a year where I've sat down with everyone and said, hey, if you just want the college football, you're just here for the college football. Of course, that's why we're here. And just watch the content. But for this particular live stream, we're going to talk about the channel, the vision, talk about the marketing, the branding, and what we have planned. And we'll do that again maybe after the football season. But I appreciate the contribution. Dennis, big Miami fan. George, nobody scared of the Gators. They're like Miami little sister in Florida. The two teams did play last year. Terry Ann, I don't believe we've seen you in quite some time. Big Bama fan, of course. Roll Tide, roll, baby. Kyle Pickett, good to see you as always, sir. I bet there's someone out there wearing a mask watching this. Well, with 51 on the line and probably about 3,000 going to watch eventually. Kyle, the odds say you're making a factual statement. I never try to pronounce this one. Cinnaminson 06. Is it true that Alabama uses bag men? All right, I better read these up here before I actually spit them out. Before we continue here, I would like to would be the word. I would like to talk to somebody directly. Of course, that's why we're here with our call-in show tonight with 48 on the line, 860-325-3687. College football is wide open. the topics, the subjects. I don't even know what I put on the subject header as the title for the show. Basically, let's embrace 2020 for what it is. It's not going to be perfect. I don't like that we don't have our big non-conference games. Maybe the biggest non-conference game is going to be UCF and Georgia Tech. Notre Dame and South Florida. Probably TCU and SMU. No projected expected national championship contenders are playing decent non-conference opponents. I don't like that about 2020. As it stands right now, I don't like that the MAC's not playing, and the Mountain West is not playing, and the Pac-12 is not playing, and oh yeah, maybe the Big Ten won't play, of course. I don't like that there's not going to be the vibe, the energy, the passion, the environment at the stadium, inside the stadium, outside the stadium, at the games that makes college football so much different than the rest of the sports in America. It's the best product on the field. They're not as good as the NFL. They're not as good. The players, obviously, that can't be debated. The play in the NFL is so much better. But when you combine it with everything involved, it's the best product on the field, at the site, and even on TV because of the fans, the crazies, the rabid fans, the alumni, the cheerleaders, the mascots, the bands, of course, and the traditions. And you take that away, and we're still going to be, since most of us, many of us have been concerned about actual play on the field, we're going to embrace it. So let's embrace 2020 for what it is. It's unique. It's strange. Hopefully it doesn't get any stranger, other than maybe the Big Ten reversing its course and reversing its decision and playing. After all this, if the Big Ten can get on the field by late October, all is going to be forgiven. I told Steve Dace of Michigan Podcast that yesterday. So check out our segment either here or over on his platform. We get together every week, and it's a great time for those of you who have caught that. We've gotten together now 8 consecutive Tuesdays on Michigan Podcast, and then I upload the video as well here, talking Ohio State, Michigan, and now with this pandemic, of course, that's been dominating the talk. The 10-minute war with Steve Dace, and we discussed just that yesterday. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Justin.
Hey, Justin. How are you?
I'm good. You mentioned a quick comment I wanted to iterate on. You mentioned, the college game isn't the professional game, and that's given. But just as an entrepreneur, let me ask you, would you rather be the commissioner of the NFL or a president of a Big Five conference? Strictly as an entrepreneur.
Trying to make money? Is that the goal?
Yeah, isn't it always?
Okay, well, I when you kept saying the term entrepreneur, yeah, that's usually what's suggested, is that it's all about making money. But at the beginning, it sounded like you were asking me my own personal preference just based on my love of the sport or what I would enjoy more. You're going to make more money in the NFL.
I disagree with you. In fact, statistics disagree with you.
Okay.
The SEC for the longest time has been more profitable than NFL. And then in the last several years, there's been several Big Five conferences that have netted more money than the NFL has as well. Because why? Of course, you don't have to play or pay players.
Okay.
So, regardless if it's an inferior product or not, from just dollars and cents standpoints, running a Big Five conference going to net you a lot more money than having to play or having to pay, 30-something players on the field, millions of dollars per. I mean, that eats into your revenue.
You're missing one point, though. And that point would be that there aren't college athletics without institutions, without higher learning, and without the actual institution. There's no competition on the field. Therefore, there's no such thing as an entrepreneur who makes money off college athletics.
You don't believe that these schools? Why do you think?
I'm not saying the schools don't make money. I'm saying individuals aren't making money. Yeah, they're being paid salaries, but they're not. First of all, why did you ask the question if you knew the answer? If you knew what your answer was?
No, I mean, to get into your thinking, like, is that not semantics to say a school makes money but people don't?
To a certain extent. So yes, there are people who are not the only person getting rich off of football entirely, just football, at an institution is the head coach and the coordinators now to a certain extent. The rest of them have academic-oriented positions that existed far before football or college athletics.
Okay.
And most of the schools lose money playing football.
All right.
There's a lot of schools that make a lot of money, but most of them lose money.
I don't understand that logic because, like, let's take the SEC for an example. Head coaches in the SEC make comparable to what they would in the NFL.
Sure.
And you think that a university is going to pay somebody that much money for a sport and a product that isn't netting them astronomically more money than what they're paying the head coach?
Well, there's a difference between revenue and equity. And I am no expert on this subject. I watch college football, I watch the product on the field, and then I know some of these other things just by, being around it. But as I understand it, and this came to light during the Big Ten debacle in recent months, that most of the big powers in the Big Ten are running on deficits. They make a lot of revenue, but they also pour a lot of money into it, and their endowments aren't in the best condition, as I understand it. And again, I'm no expert on it. Don't claim to be.
Okay.
So your point is that it's financially more solvent to be who in college football? See, that's what I'm trying to determine as well. Who are you as an entrepreneur connected to college football?
I'm not. I'm just saying that if I were to be one in the world of college, football in general, I would think that my return on investment would be better spent in the college game than it would in the pros.
That very well could be. I don't know what those numbers exactly are. I would say that the future of the NFL is in better standing than what we have seen recently threatening college football, which is legal action by the players, unionization of the players, possibly. Now, once we get into paying the players, if you look at the statement that the Pac-12 players put together just prior to the season being canceled, if they would get anything close to their demands about pay, that would completely, and we had a discussion with somebody who's far better versed than I am, Tony Siracusa, last word on college football, because he's entrenched in UCLA athletics in particular, and he's looked at the numbers, and if they would have gotten anything, and I did the quick math and said, my goodness, Tony, these players can't demand this kind of money. That would just completely break the Pac-12. And he said, absolutely. even a fraction of what they demanded. So if they get to the point where they start paying these players, I don't know, the numbers may break down differently. Hello, Justin. Oh, I think Justin left us at some point. All right, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. So what you will get from me is complete honesty when it comes to what I know and what I don't know. If you want to ask me recruiting questions, for example, and you want to talk about particular players, how good they are, they're ranked 37th at cornerback, and they should be higher than that, I'm not your guy. That's why we have built a channel, not only with my voice and your voice, but we built a channel where we bring on the best bloggers and broadcasters and writers in the industry. I certainly have much to say and believe I'm as well versed in total of college football, how it's run, and the situation, and certainly the history of college football and the competition on the field. But that's why we bring on, for example, with Jamie Newman just in making his announcement that he is opting out for the 2020 season. We go grab our 247 sports guy from the Georgia platform, Palmer Toms, and we get his input. So if I'm not well versed on something, I will let you know. And if I believe I should be, then I will up my game in that area. But when it comes to making a comparison about NFL and college football finances, the one bullet point that comes to mind first and foremost is that NFL franchises are extremely similar because they share profits and money and they operate much the same way. So there's not a huge disparity between them from top to bottom because they share a national TV contract. So that's all shared money, and that's the biggest portion of the pot. Where college football, there's a huge disparity between, how many people they put in the stands and the TV contracts and how much they charge and how much merchandising at a place like the University of Alabama versus Fresno State. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Am I on the line?
You are on the line, sir.
Oh, Mark, first of all, you have a great show, and I'm talking to the enemy, so you know who this is.
Oh, we got Mark Thibodeau on the line.
Yes, you do.
Oh, this is tremendous.
I want to make a couple comments. I caught your show about 6 months ago, Mark, and I'm from Michigan, and I used to phrase, I live and die for one game. You had another desk on that said that they love other games, and other games mean a lot, and the other Big Ten games. Not with me, and not with all my friends since 1969. It's one game that I live and die for, and I'm tired of getting beat. That I love the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry beats everything in my mind in sports with pro baseball, pro football. That's the game, and every day I think about it. And you have a great program, and I know you're an Ohio State guy, but you allow other people and to give their opinions, and you have an excellent attitude with the game. And I think I've only disagreed with you maybe twice, and but it's a great show. And another thing that I want to bring up, another point, and I just can't get it, and I want your opinion. Why Lloyd Carr, even though I believe he's one game under 500 against the Buckeyes, that why was he so successful? And I met Jim Harbaugh when he was at Michigan. I met him personally, and Harbaugh just can't get it done, and it's driving me nuts. What is the difference between Carr doing it, even though I think Lloyd beat Ohio State 4 times and lost 5 times? Hey, that's not bad compared to the last 17 years. And when Harbaugh came on board, Mark, I thought he'd really turn it around in this rivalry, but he hasn't. He hasn't even beaten them once. So
I really, and I respect and I really enjoy your show. And what's your opinion on that?
So, Mark, I'm trying to cycle through the games as we speak in my head. Lloyd Carr's first year was 1995, and he was there through 07, correct? So that would be 13 games in the rivalry. So he won.
Okay, so I was.
He won in 95, 6, and 7. He won the first 3. He won in 99, 2000, 03. And lost in 4, 5, 6, and 7. So he was 6 and 7.
Okay,
so you're right there.
But I knew he was one game under. But at least,
yep.
Holy cow! At least he won 6 games and out of 13, and that bodes well. And I never thought this would have happened with Coach Harbaugh. And when he came on board, it really excited all the Wolverine fanatics, including me, and he hasn't got the job done. And in my opinion, I do believe that if he went on 3 more years losing, and it's just my humble opinion, I think he will. He'll step down. They'll tell him either to step down or we're going to embarrass you and fire you. They didn't waste any time down in Alabama when Bear Bryant left, and there were several coaches right after him that if they didn't get the job done, they were fired or stepped down. And in my opinion, that's what happened. And so, what do you think of Harbaugh? How long do you think he can honestly go without beating the Buckeyes, without either A, stepping down or leaving or getting fired?
So I will tell you, Mark, just to preface some of that conversation and to extend on what you said off the top, it's my aim here to present everything as clear-cut and as neutral as possible. That's my aim. I take great pride when people try to guess who I root for, or they have no idea. Or I just had somebody comment, this was just in the last 3 days, that I must hate Ohio State, and they just went on about how I'm hard on the Buckeyes or something. I don't know what they caught on to that they didn't like me saying recently, but I appreciate, especially when I have Ohio State haters that don't realize I'm an Ohio State fan, that lets me know that I'm trying to cut this as straight as possible. So we try to analyze it fairly and neutral. For example, I said in 2016 that Ohio State should not make the playoff, and I ranted and raved here for a week about Penn State getting ripped off, and they should have been in the playoff instead of Ohio State. So that's my case example of trying to be neutral. It's impossible. I don't state that I am. I'm of course biased and partial like everybody else, but I do my best. And you're right. That game is just, I can't put it into words how it's separated from the other games. That's how I grew up. I grew up in Ohio, and the Michigan game was just everything. It was just magical. And my son started watching college football in 2008, and I drilled it in his brain that this is the game, and just the importance, the significance, the legendary status of the characters involved and the history. And about 5 or 6 years into it for him, he just was like, Dad, our rivals are Wisconsin and Michigan State. They play us better than Michigan. He gets it. He understands where that's coming from, but he's like, Dad, it's not the 80s or the 90s. So you keep building this up, and every year I'll say, well, I think, man, they are a threat. I'm worried this year. And he'll be like, yeah, whatever. So he's not sold on it. He just hasn't lived it.
Mark, it's been imbued in my brain since '69. Okay, and that was the really big game that with all my friends that really started it. You talked about injustice, and I normally don't like talking politics with football, but I have to bring this up because I was at the game in 1973 when we tied. We took a 10-zip lead against the Buckeyes at Ann Arbor, and the game was tied. Back then, everybody was throwing roses because we were going to go to the Rose Bowl, because back then, if you tied a team and had the same record, the team that went to the Rose Bowl before that did not go. And Ohio State went the year before, and guess what? Because our quarterback broke his collarbone, Dennis Franklin,
Yep.
and they had an emergency vote, and Ohio State was voted to go. To this day, we still scream about that injustice, and that was so unfair to all those Michigan players. And so you talk about it's a hated rivalry, but in a nice way. I love Buckeye fans, and a lot of my friends are from Columbus, and I say that teasingly. Oh my God, I actually went to some games. I went to a game in which Earl Bruce blew the game, in which he went for it on fourth down, and Michigan came right back within a minute and a half left and kicked a field goal to win the game. Earl Bruce should have kicked the football. We would have never won that game. And when I left, people were throwing rocks at cars that had Michigan plates, and I used to see that in Ann Arbor. And I used to tell my girlfriend, anybody that had an Ohio plate, they were throwing rocks at them, and I think that's horrible. This is only a game, and you got to keep it in perspective. However, I live and die for this game, Mark, and I want to make that point. And I love your show, even though I teasingly say I'm listening to the enemy.
Well, I'm right there in step with you, Mark, when it comes to the rivalry. It has meant more to me in the past. It still means a whole lot to me, but at the age that I am, I guess some of that wears off to a certain extent, because I used to just, it would bother me for weeks and weeks after Ohio State would lose to Michigan, and it just doesn't carry that. But I would just think about it, the week leading up to the game, that was the only thing on my mind. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way through to Saturday and noon kickoff was Ohio State and Michigan.
Sure.
But now, certainly, as soon as that pregame and they put together the montage of the great history and all the great previous games, that the blood gets boiling again, and I get revved up and ready to go. And there's just nothing like those 3 to 3.5 hours on the final Saturday of November watching that game that compares in any way to the rest of the year, still to this day.
I agree with that, and I take it a step further, or farther, which one, but I don't really start thinking about that until spring football, when they play spring football. Then I think about it. Then it dies down a little bit. Then I think about it in July. I've been thinking that way since '69, and all my friends, they're just as crazy as I am thinking about that game, and it will never go away with me. And maybe that's because I'll never forget the Detroit News in '69. Ohio State was ranked number 1. They had the great Jim Otis. They had a great quarterback, and on the front page of the Detroit News, it had Woody Hayes with this big steamroll over that machine, and it was going over Bo Schembechler. I'll never forget that cartoon. And I think Ohio State was favored like around 17.5 points. That really started it in '69.
Yep.
And when we won that game, anybody my age, and unfortunately, I can't believe I'm in my mid-60s, but I am. But I feel like I'm 28. But that game really started it. And from that year, everybody my age, and when we talk college football, we don't talk Michigan playing Minnesota. We don't even talk a little bit that the state rivalry, the Spartans, okay, they're okay, but there's one game and one game only, and it's the Ohio State Buckeyes. And I don't think that will ever go. Well, it won't go away with me, and it won't go away with my close friends that were, some of them played Big Ten football and some of them didn't, but they're college football fans. And that's why, well, not only are you articulate, you're a very intelligent guy, but you have a passion for those Buckeyes, and that's why I call it listening to the enemy jokingly, but that's why you have a great college show, because then you'll talk about other teams. You'll talk about any college in the whole United States with the passion. And I just want to tell you, and I'm really glad I got through, and I don't want to hold up your phone here, but you have, what do you want to call me, an enemy fan?
I appreciate that so much, Mark. It was funny because the first couple times I remember you commenting that the enemy in caps just kind of stuck with me, and then it kind of clicked after a little while. I thought, well, this guy keeps watching and he keeps making comments. And then you started to weave in a little respectful comments there. And I thought, this guy's all right. He's a Michigan fan and it's good to have him. But I can't convey to my son that when those two, whether it's the home Buckeye uniforms in red versus the white with the maize and blue, or the reversal in Ann Arbor, just when you see those two uniforms together on the same field, for me, it just conjures up memories. And even after winning 14 out of 15 or 15 out of 16, whatever the number is, which I never had to endure the kind of drought that you've had to endure. But, there were stretches in the 80s and in the 90s, especially, where I thought we're never going to beat Michigan. And it was only 4 or 5 year droughts that seemed like
I know.
ages. But when I can't convey to my son, when I see those uniforms on the field, it brings back so many. And I guess because of the old adage that football coaches will tell you that the losses sting more than the joy of the victories, that I have a negative, I don't want to say a negative vibe. I'm happy that the game's there, but the crushing losses come more to my memory when I see those combination of those two uniforms on the same field, back to my brain.
Yeah, and actually, you're making a good point, and I'm such an avid Michigan fan, and I have the utmost respect towards Ohio State, obviously. I was even upset, and you may remember this because this was in your time, Mark, that the Buckeyes started changing their uniform. I was going ballistic to all my friends going, what are they doing?
Oh, my goodness.
I couldn't believe they're changing. They even put black was not in their. I was even getting upset because I forgot they're putting black lines down their pants. And I'm thinking it's scarlet and gray, you bozos. Stick. All my life it was scarlet and gray. Don't start putting on other colors. That's not your color. And it made me upset, and I loathed the Buckeyes.
So
they were monkeying around doing that.
I don't remember exactly when all that business started, around 2007, 2008, something in that range. So I was disheartened and upset the first time that the Buckeyes messed around with their uniforms. But then the first time we came out against Michigan, which was in 2009 in Ann Arbor, and we wore throwback jerseys to like 54 or something. I forget what the connection was. To a national championship team. And even that disturbed me. And I thought, you know what? Do that against Toledo. Do that against whomever. Don't do that in this game.
That's exactly what I thought, because you really have to be tied down to even understand that. Even if you're a huge Buckeye fan, you better be a certain age to even understand that uniform. And I'm with you 100%. I can't imagine. Oh, you know what? Michigan did that. Michigan did that, Mark, a couple times. And they came out with these crazy uniforms. I didn't even think it was a uniform back in the 30s. And I'm thinking, and that was driving me nuts. I forgot. Michigan also did that. It wasn't against Ohio State, but just seeing these ridiculous-looking socks and the uniform. And if I was on that team, I would have been very upset. And I think it's not a big deal, but I did. It was spring football till I got hurt. That I had a full scholarship on a Division I team. One of my buddies has 3 Super Bowl rings that I played with when I was on Eastern Michigan's team, and that's Division I.
Who would that be?
Pardon me?
Who would that be?
John Banaszak for the Pittsburgh
John Banaszak,
Steelers.
Oakland Raiders.
No, that's Cass. People get them confused. That's Cass Banaszak.
Oh, I'm thinking of
that all the time.
Pete Banaszak. John Banaszak was number 76.
John Banaszak broke into Steel Curtain.
Yeah, number 76.
He played at Eastern Michigan.
Yep.
John Banaszak was a defensive tackle, and John played at St. Joseph's, south of Cleveland. And so people get those other Banaszaks mixed up, but John was a defensive tackle, and he has 3 Super Bowl rings. And he was on Eastern's team when I was on the spring football team. I got a full scholarship, but I got hurt in a spring football game, Mark, and we played. The big thrill for me, we played in the big house. Because back then we had grass, and in Michigan it's too cold and snowy. And so I actually played in the big house. And it was such a thrill because I wasn't even thinking about our game. I was thinking about the Wolverines, and they even still had the score 10-10 on the scoreboard, if you can believe this back then. And I went to that 10-10 game. So all this stuff is really good, and I have total respect for the Buckeye fans and that rivalry. Like I said, I have no problem 67, and I look 20 years younger, and I feel like I'm 20, and that rivalry will not get bigger in anything, and it's my number one thing. As opposed to watching the World Series, Super Bowl, nothing can compare in my eyes than the Michigan Buckeye game. And you guys are sitting back fat as cats. And I used to tell my friends when we went on that roll that we were beating you guys like 9 out of 11. Cooper was there, and some of my Buckeye friends used to tell me, "Mark, aren't you getting sick of beating us?" And I said, "Guys, I want you to listen to me very carefully. If we beat you 1,000 years in a row, it's not enough."
Exactly.
And that's the spirit of that rivalry. But anyway, Mark, I'll let you go. I know
Thanks,
you got a ton of callers, and thanks for putting up with my ranting. And even if they have to cheat with the Buckeyes, please let us win.
Well, you can call back sometime because I think your original question had to do with Harbaugh. We'll kick around Jim Harbaugh a little bit next time you call.
We'll do that, Mark, and continue your success, and you have a great show.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it.
And
Great to hear
I'll
from
talk
you.
down the road.
Sounds good.
You
Have
got
a great
it.
night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Mark Thibodeau. Yes, the enemy. It was fun to see his first comments because they were bold and kind of in my face, not in a rude way, not an obnoxious way, but just to basically say, you're the enemy, but I'm still watching. And then they increasingly got a little tamer and a little bit more friendly and a little bit more, I don't want to say that they were never not respectful, but he kind of unveiled that I enjoy your show. You are the enemy, but I enjoy your show. And so it's great to hear from Mark Thibodeau. 85 on the line. I was contemplating apologizing for that long Ohio State-Michigan love affair there, but I won't because it's college football. So if you want to call me about Oregon State, we'll talk about it. I won't have quite as much to say, but I will have my 2 or 10 cents to provide. We should probably post a video at some point where we rank the rivalries in college football. I will just let you know that if we do that, yes, I am biased, of course, at least I admit that. The aim is to take out the bias as much as possible. I do my best. If anything, I try to lean a little toward whatever the other side is to try to balance out my biases as best as possible. But nobody can remove bias completely. If anybody tells you that they've removed their bias completely, then they're lying or they're just not self-aware. But I'm going to let you know right now that if we rank the rivalries in college football, that I will take Army-Navy and I will just put it in a different category. I will just say, you know what, this is special for obvious reasons, and I will discuss it and talk about it in a reverent way. They're not producing NFL players. They're not competing for conference and national championships. They're not even ranked most of the time, either one of them. But that's just a special deal. And then I'll rank everybody else that's just playing football, and it's about rah-rah, college tradition, pageantry, and history. Anthony is running down, I believe, all the states in the union and letting us know who can play and who can't play. Case in point, Anthony, definitely, I am taking this home. I'm supporting you. I'm right there with you. One of the best tweets that I saw outlining this initially was as soon as the Big Ten canceled, somebody put together Ohio and Pennsylvania and all the different levels of football from Pee Wee all the way up to the NFL that would be playing, and that Ohio State and Penn State would not be playing. Somebody had commented earlier. I appreciate some good things out of Charleston. Frat boy. He's at 50-50. I'm going to give it a slight edge and be optimistic to say that I'm hoping that the powers that be have come to their senses, whether they've come to their senses or they're just going to cower in the face of public opinion and sheer pressure put on. I don't care which it is. I would hope actually for future decisions that they're reanalyzing the data and looking at the situation and going to make a calculated, reasonable reversal of their decision. But even if it's just a sheer cowering to public opinion, I'll take it. So I'm going to say 60-40, but you're right there, Charleston frat boy. In a sense, who knows? And once that decision is made, we'll never know what those odds truly are. It's kind of like the predictions I'm making right now. I've released the entire SEC as of tomorrow. You will see the Alabama Post in the morning. I put the Football Power Index probability percentage number next to every game, and then my percentage number. And then the prediction that I make doesn't always coincide with my percentage, which seems to not make sense, right? If I say that Team A has a 72% chance of beating Team B, and then I predict Team B to win, how does that make sense? Well, it makes sense because the better team doesn't always win. And we know that if all these teams were able to play multiple times, the same team wouldn't win every time. So I'm making a projection that on that given Saturday, that there will be an upset. And so I'm making a calculated decision. Some people have criticized this, but we know, or you know now that I've told you about 52 times over the past week, that about 22 or 23% of the games in the top 25 and in Power 5 play are upsets, that I am looking for those upsets. They are upsets. Every week I look at the top 25 and I make my predictions, which I have since 1982. And now, since I've run the numbers and tracked it, I am forcing myself to pick 4 to 5 upsets, which is against my nature. My nature is, and I think it's true of most of us, to grab an NCAA tournament bracket and just pick all the 1s and 2s all the way through. That's our nature because we're averse to risk. And also we just can't forecast the upset. It's difficult to pull the trigger and say, yeah, South Carolina is going to beat Georgia. Yeah, Pitt's going to beat Clemson. Iowa at home against Ohio State. I think they can do it. I'm going to pick that upset. But the odds tell us that over a quantity of games that's going to happen twice out of 10 times. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, Senator Thrawn, how are you?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, how you been?
I'm good. What you been up to?
Well, you definitely have a little bit more of a shot, I think. I think they're going to probably vote to play,
I think so, too. I'm hopeful, but I'm not guaranteed, that's for sure. We'll put Oklahoma on the top shelf here. Maybe I've started a new tradition that whoever calls me, I'm going to switch out the helmet. So Mark Thibodeau called, big Michigan fan, so I put the Wolverines on the top shelf, and now I've got Oklahoma front and center on the top.
Very good, very good. Oh, yeah, I heard the Michigan guy, and I mean, I thought we were talking to the ghost of Bo Schembechler, because I swear he sounded just like him when I was listening. He sounded like Bo Schembechler. Of course, he was so maddening, crazy about Michigan. Not just how he talked about Michigan, but even his voice. He kind of sounded like Schembechler to me.
Yeah, I think that rubs off after a while. I think if you listen to somebody for that long and you're that much of an admirer, it just kind of rubs off. Start to sound like him.
He did kind of sound like him. Because I remember I hadn't heard Bo in a long time, but I don't remember what I was watching. I saw an old game or clip or something. Oh, yeah, Tim Brando posted a clip of a game he did like in the 80s, and he interviewed Bo. I saw it on his Twitter a couple days ago, so I kind of had his sound of his voice in my head. That guy sounded just like him. But and I know he was calling in, and I know a lot of Michigan fans are, Harbaugh. I don't know about Harbaugh. I don't know about Harbaugh. So what I would remind some of those people is Tom Osborne was a pretty good coach. Don't you think? Pretty good coach.
Yes, and you're going to make a great point, and I'll let you go because I've said the same thing. So continue.
He was 5-13 versus Switzer and didn't win a national title until what 22, 23 years, something like that.
So his first year at Nebraska, I believe, was 74, somewhere in that range. 73, 74 is when he took over Nebraska, somewhere like
90,
that. And
90, he won like 94.
94 was the first national championship, yeah. And so, yeah, his coaching tenure his winning percentage was phenomenal. But, yeah, he couldn't beat Oklahoma. And then even when he started to there after Switzer left, he kept running into the likes of Miami and others, but mostly Miami, and just showing that they weren't up to it. And then he finally figured it out.
Yeah, yep. So, and he was pretty good, but I know this day and age, people are just so, we got to have it. But Osborne is a perfect example. Another example, more recent, Mac Brown, he was against Stoops. He started off 1-5, and the next year he won a national championship.
Yeah.
Stoops lost the first time, and we beat him 5 straight times, and then in 05 he won a title. So, and I mean, Mac, pretty good coach. I think he did all right. So don't give up on him. I think Harbaugh's a good choice. It's just he's caught, and no one's beat Ohio State that's coached at Michigan the last 15 years, and it's just he's caught even Ohio State even when they're even at almost a level that they've not been at.
Sure,
and they're just so rolling right. And so that's I think I just don't know how much better you could do with Harbaugh. And I know they say he makes $7 million, but remember Jeff Brom makes 6.5 at Purdue, which that doesn't make any sense at all. I don't know why he makes 6.5.
Yeah, they really wanted him.
Well, I thought he would go to Louisville. It kind of seemed like, and then they made the deal where he wasn't. Louisville made a little more sense. I think it's overall better, and he was kind of a legend there. But I guess if you're going to pay him that much more. I am disappointed that we don't get to see the Moore kid play ever again, because he was because even if they come back, he opted out. Because he won't play even if they come back.
Sure.
He was such a fun guy to watch that first year. That he got hurt. I mean, I know he wasn't fun against. So, was that? No, that wasn't Ohio State. That was I don't know. He
tore up Ohio State. Yeah, that was the big upset when Ohio State was number 2, and he had a field day against Ohio State. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that was the kid the kid that was and that was had the terminal, wasn't that? Yeah, yes. The terminal illness.
Yep.
Yes.
And
Ohio State was 1 for. I say in that game, Ohio State was like 1 for 5 for touchdowns in the red zone, and I said, God was playing defense for Purdue.
What was nice about
Ohio State 1 for 5?
What was nice? What was nice for the college football fan that year was that who's going to be watching Purdue unless you're a Purdue fan or they're playing your team. They had a nice little feel-good season because they beat Ohio State and won a couple other decent games, or really good games actually, and then they went 6-6 and got blown out in the bowl game. But who's going to watch Purdue games? But they actually opened on a Thursday night on ESPN and was the headliner game on opening night against Northwestern. So everybody got a glimpse of Rondell Moore, and he became a star in his first game as a freshman.
Yeah.
Had a huge game, and so everybody, everybody got acquainted with him right out of the gate.
Yeah, I mean, he's like the highest recruit to go there in a long. I mean,
Yes.
they don't get a 4-star. I mean, he was the guy that everybody was recruiting, and it's too bad because we literally got one season because he got hurt, like the first game last year.
Yeah, it's Rondell Moore. And also, man, I can't remember the kid's name. He plays defensive end for Purdue right now. He was actually a 5-star, and he was right there in that same category with Moore that they reeled him in, and he actually grew up like down the street from Purdue. And so he always knew he was just going to go there. I can't think of the kid's name, but he's off to a good collegiate start as well. But yeah, Jeff Brom making a lot of money.
Ed Oliver at Houston, he grew up in Houston, and he was the first 5-star to ever go to Houston, and he was pretty good. And lived up to his hype. But did you see my the old Sooner legend? You know, that the coach at Central Florida, he had 10 guys opt out today. 10.
Oh, I didn't see that.
10 guys.
Are we talking about prominent players? Guys that they need?
The guy that was our legendary the quarterback that basically Mike Leach kind of found him in the mountains up there in junior college. Nobody had recruited him, and he came in with Leach, because I don't think Stoops. Yeah, Stoops. It was Leach that got him. Stoops brought Leach from Kentucky, but he found Heupel because OU, they didn't have anybody could throw the ball probably on the freaking team, and so somehow he found Josh. And I just remember because we had been so bad for 3 straight years, and then me and my best friend, he lives here, and we were in the same fraternity class and both graduated at OU at the same time. I live in Plano. He lives in Frisco, which is 20 minutes away. So I had dinner with him 2 nights ago. But we said, let's go watch this new OU team. And our freshman year, we were good. And of course, I grew up going all the time. He wasn't really, his dad worked for Phillips. So he moved a lot. He was not into the OU. I mean, my whole life, I followed my dad, been season ticket over 54 years. So I remembered OU being good and all this. And he didn't really know that much about it. And so, but of course, he learned to love it. But we were just terrible with John Blake. It was disastrous. Although I'll give Blake credit, his recruiting did help. He definitely helped get some of the players for the 2000 team. And John Blake, he died about a month ago, actually, at 59, unfortunately.
I did see that.
He was, and he'd been a Buffalo Bill defensive line coach for 4 years. After the North Carolina Butch Davis, basically, he took the fall for Butch Davis. Davis just threw him under the bus. Blake definitely had some questionable stuff, but Davis kind of was able to just throw it all on him, and he kind of slithered away from that. Kind of got away from it. Blake took the whole bit. Anyway, but we were so bad, and then so we're like, okay, this new guy, I didn't know much about Stoops, defensive coordinator. I remember he's from Florida. I kind of, Spurrier, that's all you think about Florida. And then we go and we watch, and he throws Heupel against Indiana State, and nobody, but he throws for like 400 yards and like 7 touchdowns, and we're just looking at each other. That was OU? Because we've never seen them do anything like that. I mean, even when we had decent guys that could throw a little, we never throw it all over the field. We're watching, what is this? And that was kind of, and of course, then the next year, we actually, after Leach left, I always said, I'm not sure we'd have won the title because he didn't like to run the ball, but they started running it more. And then our defense was a lot better, and we won the title. And that was our boy Josh. And he did well. He was offensive coordinator at OU for a while. I think that's the hardest guy Stoops ever had to fire when he had to fire Josh. That was pretty rough for him because that was, his great quarterback. The UCF, they said he had 10 guys opt out today, which, I mean, they count against your scholars. I mean, you're counting against your 85, so it's not like you go try to find some transfers. You're down to 75 now. And, of course, UCF, they don't really have many. It's not like they have guys that are drafted, going to be top 10 draft picks, like guys, like Parsons from Penn State or whatever. those are just guys that decided they didn't want to play because they wanted for whatever COVID or whatever the reason is. 10 of them. That's hard. That's not an easy thing to recover from 2 weeks before the season, particularly this year when you just never know who's gonna fail at COVID. Or I think another thing you're going to do. I think you may see more injuries because guys they've not been going at it all year like they normally have, and coaches may be a little leery to work them as hard during this week, and then they go out and it's full speed. I just have a feeling you're going to see more guys get a little nicked up. I don't know. That's a brutal one to try to recover from. 10 guys. That's by far the most. I've not heard anything like that.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it right now. All right, Sooner Thrawn, we've got a number of people that have called in the last minute or so. So appreciate the call. And I'm going to look into this UCF deal.
Have a good one, man.
Appreciate it. You too. Our man Sooner Thrawn always has some information for us. 10 UCF football players, including 2 projected starters. So what we've got here is basically Tay Gowan, cornerback and defensive tackle Kalia Davis, who both started 9 games last year. And then you'll probably remember this name, Daryl Mack. He was the quarterback who started much last season. So he was in the McKenzie Milton backup race, started 3 games in 2018. The entire, actually was projected as the starter in 2019, got hurt in the preseason. And so he's opted out as well. So then they've got a bunch of reserve linemen, both offense and defense, are the other 5 guys. So a lot of offensive and defensive line depth missing for UCF. Starting corner Tay Gowan, defensive tackle starter Kalia Davis, and backup quarterback Daryl Mack, who has quite a bit of experience. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, who's on the line?
What's going on, Mark, man? This is where Rashawn Bourne calling from Bama.
Rashawn, how are you?
Man, I'm doing well. Just tuned in to you, just checking it out a little bit, getting a little, supporting as usual. But I want to shake things up a little bit.
Okay.
Man. Give me an opportunity to check the show up just a little bit. All this Big Ten talk is making my toes hurt, man. You got to shake it up just a little bit.
Hey, you guys produce the show. Whoever calls in, you produce the show. I just flow with it.
Man. We love you guys, brother. It's all friendly respect, man. We love Ohio State. Great calls, man. Great calls and great fans. We respect those guys, man. We respect the whole Big Ten, man, and wish you guys had some type of leadership to have you guys balling this year.
Exactly.
I'm not even gonna get on that subject, bro. I'm just not even gonna get on that because that nobody in this region understands what the hockey stick understands what's going on with that.
I hear
Why
you.
did the decision come so fast? Why didn't this dude just wait for? This is what I want to know. How do you have your high schools playing, but the college, the bell cow colleges are not? I don't understand that, man. We don't get that down here.
Nobody gets it.
Nobody gets that.
And that's why you see the big fight in the Big Ten. Somebody asked me the other night, they said, we're not hearing a peep out of the Pac-12. I said, well, that's because everybody's pretty much on board. I'm sure there's people out there that are mad they're not playing football, but it's not enough of them. I said, and then you got the ACC and the SEC territory where they're all on board and they're all one mindset. I said the Big Ten's splintered where you've got the elitists, the academia, the presidents, the commissioner, they make their decision, but the common folk, the players, the coaches, the fans, the parents, they all want to play. So this is where you got a big fight.
Of course. We saw the parent protests.
Yes.
Against man, we respect that, man. We respect Ohio State. And I know the Michigan fans about to be mad, but I got to be real, man. Ohio State could fit in the SEC. They have the same passion. It's the same school, man, but it's the same. You know what I mean? I mean, the guy called about Michigan, and I got to get on him just for a little bit. For a little bit. Even when Lloyd Carr was there, man, you guys were 10-2, 9-3.
Yep.
I mean, you guys hadn't been really about that business for a long time, man.
Absolutely. You're right.
It's been a while. I mean, no disrespect to Michigan. We respect the program now. We respect them, but that's why I got to get on you because I respect you. You guys hadn't been relevant in a very, very long time, and we respect you now. We respect Michigan, but we played you guys in a bowl game that none of our players really didn't want to play in, but wanted to set the tone and let you know, brother, we throw it out to it. We're going to smack you out here, man. We're going to show you that we respect you, but we're going to casually, respectfully whip you real quick. We want the scarlet and gray. That's what we want. We still remember 2014.
Sure.
We still hurt by that.
You know
Mark Rogers.
You know the game we didn't get a chance to see, Rashawn, that would have just been epic was, of course, Ohio State won the game in 2014. Great game, 42-35. And I said it at the time.
Right.
I said, that's the national championship game. It's not Oregon or Florida State, anybody else. Ohio State, Alabama, they're playing the national championship game tonight. And then they turn around the next season. Alabama makes it. Got some help from Ole Miss screwing around at Arkansas. Yeah. But anyway, they did the job, and they got back to Atlanta, won the SEC, and got back to the playoff. Ohio State went 12-1, but they lost the wrong game, and they lost to Michigan State on the last play of the game. Otherwise, you guys just annihilate Michigan State. We all wanted to see Alabama Ohio State rematch, the two most talented teams in the country. Did. But we didn't get
Everybody did, man.
That would have been sweet.
Yeah, man. It's the powers that be wanted, I think. I think the powers that be wanted. I played college football myself down here at HBCU. Robert Mathis was my teammate, Frank Karras, Kenyon Hambert. So I know how that pro thing go. And the guy was calling earlier about the NFL. I'd like to tell him that I think the Big Ten made the most revenue this year. I think they made like $780 million. I think the SEC was like 725 or something like that. But I want him to know that the Dallas Cowboys grossed $950 million alone just in the United States. I mean, you can't even – the entire conference didn't even make more than just that single team. You can't even compare that, man. The NFL is a whole other structure.
Yeah, thank you.
When you say business, you better believe it's a business, man.
I didn't have the numbers in front of me, but I knew that the NFL made more money than college football.
Yeah, man, that's a whole other level of dollar bill. We just say it like that. Whole other level. But I do want to say real quick, man, we really, really, really wish Ohio State and the Big Ten rethink this thing, man. I can tell you there's a lot of fans in the South that wish these guys would allow these guys to play so we can try to meet these guys finally. That's the matchup. If you poll the nation right here, I can guarantee you that people want to see Bama and Ohio State link one more time. You know what I mean? That I can promise you. And before I get off, I want to say this with all due respect for Ohio State and Michigan. I went to that game, actually. I went to Ohio State and Michigan with one of my boys in 2009.
Okay.
And I went again in 2014. And Ohio State won both. I'm telling you guys out there right now, I went to this game. It's a great game. Atmosphere is ridiculous. I would love for you fans out there that have not been down south to an Alabama LSU game to check that out. Now, I've been to this Ohio State Michigan game twice. Fans were very respectful. I just didn't like there was too much loving going on. It was all respectful to each other.
Really?
Shaking hands. Yeah, man, I seen these people shaking hands. Now before the game, they stayed on their side. You see a couple people tailgating, but it was divided. They didn't talk to each other, nothing. I didn't see nobody. But after the game, everybody was just happy. It's like the Michigan fans. I didn't like the fact that the Michigan fans almost, and this was different with Michigan from back in the Tyrone Wheatley days. When Michigan lost, they weren't even mad. I didn't see no mad Michigan fans. Everybody was just having a great time. I didn't like that. When Alabama, we lose to Auburn, bro, you better believe we miserable. Miserable. You understand that? Miserable. You know what I mean? So I respect that game, but I would love for the fans that hadn't had an opportunity to come to Alabama and see Alabama LSU or Alabama Auburn game. Or if you really were brave, out to Baton Rouge. I don't like going to Baton Rouge, man. It's a little much for me. We went 2 years ago. 2 years ago. And brother, well, I guess that'd be 3 years ago now. And man, outside of Philadelphia Eagle fans, I don't know if there's a rougher fan base than Baton Rouge, brother. I promise you that, man. They on a whole other level of football and college, But yeah, man, I just want to call in and give my take. Love the show, brother. And as always, I'm going to continue to support you.
So, Rashawn, before you go, I'm going to surprise you with a fact here. I have never been to an Ohio State-Michigan game, and I've been to two. I've been to 2 Alabama LSU games.
Wait a minute, Mark. Now hold up, man. How did you not go to? What? It's got to be a reason, bro.
Well, for one thing, I live about 500 miles away now in half of the last 20 years. So I'm not there.
Yeah.
The other thing, I did have the opportunity to go to the 1992 Ohio State-Michigan game. Somebody asked me to go, and I turned them down. Not because I didn't like them. I like to watch the game on TV. I can't see what's going on. I like to see the football. I like the strategy. I got to see the plays develop, and I got to see the replays.
Right. I understand. Trust me, I do. I get it.
And see, because of my broadcasting job at a CBS station in Mississippi, I covered Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Alabama. So I was on the sideline at 2 Alabama LSU games in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, they hardcore, man.
Heck yeah.
They different, brother. I promise you that. The Iron Bowl is very, very separated. You know, Auburn and Bama fans don't really rock with each other. Game's intense, you know, but the LSU game here lately has been sort of, I think, more crazy. We've lost the Iron Bowl here in Auburn the last couple of times, so I was miserable about that. But the LSU game, for some reason, man, I'm not really sure what it is. But it's just, I think it's their fans, man. I think it has a lot to do with the Baton Rouge Cajun fans. They just take it to a whole nother level. And since those guys won, they do money, bro. You better believe they feeling themselves. And I respect it. You won it. You deserve to say whatever you want to say. You won't catch me like some of these Bama fans. If you win the national championship, brother, I have nothing but respect for you. You know what I mean? But we're going to see about that this year. We coming. For all those that's hoping we fail, let me tell you this before I go. We had 5 freshmen at one point in time last year. 5. I can tell you, DJ Dale was a defensive lineman. Justin Ebogbe was a defensive lineman. We had Christian Harris. We had Shane Lee, 2 middle linebackers. And we had Battle at safety, who was straight out of high school. Not redshirt freshman, true, barely 18-year-old kids starting on the same side of the ball last year, man. We struggled. All those kids are back, and the people they replaced are back. Dylan Moses is back. Josh McMillan is back. LeBron Ray is back. Brother, we coming this year. And everybody's sleeping on Matt Jones. Go ask Michigan about Matt Jones. He only threw for about 350, 3 touchdowns. Matt is being slept on, and that's fine. We loved it. We love the fact nobody's picking us or saying it. That's fine. We love it. We will be back, brother. Mark it down. Respect to you, Mark. I love your show, brother. Shout out to all the Big Ten fans. We praying for you guys, man, hoping they get some sense about themselves. And we think they will, man. We think the guys going to have some sense about it. Understand that it's much, much, much bigger than his personal, I'm going to be right, you guys are wrong, you know, and we hope everything work out for you, bro.
Appreciate that, Rashawn.
Roll Tide.
You can always have me into your prayer list as well. Appreciate that.
All right.
Have a good night. Good to hear from Bama fan Rashawn. Definitely bringing the love for the Tide. And, of course, they're loaded and well-equipped. And I just released my Alabama video, game-by-game predictions. No. That's the last one in the SEC. That's coming out in the morning. Coming out in the morning. Yeah, I should do that, shouldn't I, Cheryl? 860-325-3687, 860-325-3687. I mentioned this just the other day when we were talking about a number of upgrades here at the channel, is that I'm looking for cameras, looking at cameras. I picked out some links and sent those to my tech guy to get his approval, and also some lighting upgrades. And also I need to upgrade with a PC that can run the software that I want that would upgrade the graphics. So we're going to make some of those investments here, but it's going to be a bit of a learning curve as I lost track in the chat here. for me to operate all that at the same time as I host and take calls and all that. So we'll stay after it. We got Tube Seller. Thank you so much for the super chat, as well as IDK James. I don't know, James. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Clemson alum here. Very disappointed the Big Ten is not playing. Was looking forward to a possible rematch. Could care less about the Pac-12, as many are in the same boat. Pac-12 just not. And I like watching the Pac-12 late at night. I'll watch these Washington State, Arizona State games until 2:30 in the morning on a Saturday Eastern Coast time. That's because I'm a little demented. I watch them. I love them. But at the very top, the Pac-12 has not been competitive since what, 2014, 2015, maybe? Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
My name's Matt.
Hey, Matt. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
I'm good. Hey, I'm a Husker fan, and even though we're down, still a Husker fan.
Sure.
I think we're going to come back. But I just want to say, this whole B1G fiasco has really given me a new appreciation for Ohio State and their fans, and Iowa and their fans. And maybe one day I'll try to make it to the horseshoe there. The horseshoe?
It is the horseshoe.
Possibly.
Yes.
Yeah. If I ever have money, I'm just a teacher. So, that caller talked about Jim Harbaugh. As a Husker fan, I remember the Osborne years. I'm old enough to remember that. And they're in the 1970s, so he just couldn't beat Oklahoma, except that one time he beat them, and then had a rematch in the Orange Bowl and lost by a touchdown. In the 80s, when he has really some great years, but lose like in the bowl game, playing a Southern team in the Orange Bowl. But I guess my comment would be like, I think that university fans give up on a coach too soon. I mean, if you get a winning coach, keep him. I think be a little more patient. Nebraska made that mistake buying Soldier after winning 9 games, and that started the downfall. So that's the comment I have.
So I don't enjoy being a stickler, but I think it brings definition to the conversation in the debate. So some people throw around terms like relevant, and then I ask them, okay, what do you mean relevant? When I'm asked, what programs are relevant, or when was the last time so-and-so was relevant? And so then I have to ask, what does that mean? So for you, when you say a winning coach, obviously, technically, that means you're going 7-5 every year, but I don't think that's what you mean. So when you say, as long as the coach is winning, what would you consider to be winning?
Well, if a coach can win 9-10 games a season,
okay,
that's a winning coach in my mind. Like Osborne always won at least 9 games. So seasons of 10 games and undefeated seasons and all that. I mean, no coach is going to be undefeated every year, but I think that sometimes giving up on a coach too soon can make a mistake. Because the Huskers did it. Byers Schultz had 9 wins, and brought in Callahan. You know what happened there? They just never recovered, and so I just think it's a mistake to give her. I don't know. Maybe they should give Harbaugh. I'm not a Michigan fan, but I just think they had to give him a few more years, see what happens, not dump him too quickly, because there's like, what are you going to do? And what coach wants to go to the university that fires a winning coach?
Yeah, my defense of Jim Harbaugh is prior to arriving at Michigan, he had 3 jobs, and in all 3 places, he left the team in much better condition, the organization, especially the 2 major ones. Yeah. Stanford was a train wreck. He built that program, left it in great shape, and even despite a 4-8 season, if we consider that probably an aberration, basically it's been sustainable now for 10 years since he left, that he took a 2-win program and made it a BCS Pac-12 championship contender in just a few years.
Yeah.
And then he goes to the San Francisco 49ers and takes a 2-14, repeated 2-14 team. It wasn't like they just suffered a ton of injuries and hit the bottom at 2-14, but they were better than that. They were that bad. And within a couple of years, they're going to 3 consecutive NFC championship games and a Super Bowl. And even the Super Bowl loss, I would argue it was a great game. They were throwing the ball in the end zone to win the game. He can't control everything. You know, he put his team in position to win the Super Bowl. And then even in Michigan, he took over a program that went 5-7 the year before. And now they're pretty much winning 75% of their games. Is it good enough? No, they want to win Big Ten championships and compete in the playoff. But it's a huge upgrade over what it was from 2007 to the time he came in 2015. For the previous 8 years, they were just a slightly over 500 football program.
Yeah. So I know you probably got other calls want to call in, but hey, you got my number now. If you ever come to Lincoln for a game, shoot me a text message. I'll show you a good restaurant.
And where is this?
I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Out of Lincoln. Well, if we can blow this thing up as much as we would like, I got to tell you, I'll be doing a lot of traveling, but we've got a ways to go. But that would be phenomenal.
Okay.
We'll hit you up.
Okay. All right. Thanks, bud.
Appreciate that. Thanks for the call.
Sure. Yeah.
Mark Rogers TV, voice of college football, 860-325-3687. The number's somewhere buried and now in the chat. And again, when I'm able to, so I really enjoy, and there was a reason that I selected the platform that I did. It's called StreamYard, to bring the comments to the screen, from the live chat to the screen. I hope you guys enjoy that. I like that as a feature, but it limits me in regards to choosing between that and then having to go back to this setup where I can then put the number on the screen. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hi, Mark. It's Lamar Stevens. How you doing, man?
Hey, Lamar. How are you? It's been a while.
Yeah, I'm listening. I don't know what's out the call.
Good stuff. What's up?
So two callers ago, guy was kind of talking about the LSU-Alabama rivalry, and it wasn't always a rivalry with Alabama, and you can kind of tell because I don't think Alabama fans feel the same way about LSU. Beating LSU 9 times in a row will do that, but also it's just not a traditional thing. Alabama and LSU have an interesting relationship currently, and over the past, the better part of 10 years, they've had an interesting relationship. Starting off with Nick Saban, coming back from Miami, from the pros, and joining their football team, their program, and building them up into a power. Nick Saban has a lot of relationships in Louisiana. He knows the lay of the land, all the high schools, all the coaches, and hell, Nick Saban's in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. So Alabama, among all the Power 5 teams, is the team with the most players from Louisiana other than LSU. They keep at least 6. And LSU fans count. I know every player from Louisiana on Alabama roster. And no, those players don't all have to go to LSU. But when they go to Alabama, that burns more than if they went to Florida or if they went to Georgia. Because they don't gather at Florida, they don't gather at Georgia, but they gather at Alabama. And then Alabama comes and beats us with what we deem as our own players, with our own coach, that guy used to be our coach. And then there's the 2011 thing where LSU beats Alabama. Alabama doesn't win their division. They don't have to play in a championship game. Oklahoma State had to play in a championship game, and they won. Yeah, they lost in the regular season, but they won their conference. And they didn't get to play in the championship. Bama got a bye, and then they, excuse my French, they beat our ass in the championship game. And then they went on to beat us for 9 years after that. Some games close, some games not. And LSU have to battle Alabama for so many recruits. It's probably better than 40% of the recruits on LSU's team that they had to battle Alabama for. Guys like Leonard Fournette, guys like Terrace Marshall, or we've got a 5-star receiver right now, like Keyshawn Boutte, had to battle for him too. Alabama, LSU, like they always a lot of recruiting battles come out of Alabama and LSU between those two teams. It's usually not Florida, it's not LSU, Texas A&M, or Texas. It's usually Alabama that we're battling to recruit for. So an LSU fan has a lot of avarice for Alabama as a whole. People talk about a thorn in the side. They're not a thorn in the side. They're like an axe in the back. So, yeah, I just wanted to, open up like what that's about and why it's different when Alabama is in Baton Rouge.
So
we've had go ahead.
When I was just going to give my perspective on it, and I gained most of my feel for the SEC when I was down there covering the SEC, and I was at the games, and that was between 1994 and 2000. So I knew a lot about Alabama football tradition and LSU as well. Obviously, Alabama's can't be rivaled in the SEC. Alabama has by far the most championships, the best winning percentage, all of it in the SEC in history. Tennessee would be next, and then you've got Auburn, you've got LSU, and others. Florida, of course, more recently. And I knew about Billy Cannon in 1959, and that there was a rivalry of sorts between Alabama and LSU. During the time that I was there, Alabama was on a big run against LSU. I don't think they had lost in Baton Rouge for a long time. And I saw the Kevin Faulk teams, the Sean Alexander Alabama team. So LSU, between my viewpoint of LSU was, I always was intrigued that they weren't better during those times than they were, because I started watching college football in the late 70s, and LSU popped up with some good teams in the 80s, but not great teams. They didn't compete for national championships, but SEC champions a few times. They got knocked down by Nebraska a couple times in the Sugar Bowl. Those kind of teams, 9-3 kind of teams. But between the late, I've run the numbers between the late 80s up until when Nick Saban took over, and LSU went on like a 12 or 13-year run where they won like 40% of their games in the SEC and were barely over 500 overall. It was just a situation in which Nick Saban is just, as you mentioned, he's in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. I didn't know that, but for good reason. He's revitalized the program, and it's been sustained since then. And it's been more recently brought onto the national radar as a huge rivalry. It's only been this I think it's a few things have come into play at the same time. Nick Saban going from LSU, winning a national championship, going to the NFL for 2 years, then on to Alabama. So there's an automatic rivalry there in terms of, okay, you took our coach, he won a national championship with us, now he's with the hated Tide and in the same division. The other thing is that he built and set up LSU to sustain all the recruiting wealth and this LSU, again, the football fervor was there, but the results on the field were not there before Nick Saban and had not been for decades. And now they've pretty much been a national title contender. Even when they're not a true contender on the field, they're looked upon because of that top 5 talent ever since Nick Saban left as that kind of program. And of course, they knocked heads with Alabama in the championship game and the epic 9-6 game before that. And so it's become a kind of modern, it's an old rivalry that's been re-energized in a modern way as these two kind of NFL producing programs that collide every year.
Nick took advantage of something that Gennaro and a lot of guys before weren't able to take advantage of. And it's the fact that I believe in 1990, maybe the FCC was like coming together, or maybe it was in the 80s. The Tulane had a chance to join the FCC, and they chose not to, which was a huge mistake. But you know, they couldn't have known back then, I guess. And because of that, LSU doesn't have any in-state rivals. So when it comes to recruiting, you know, they're the biggest show in town. So Nick Saban was finally able to take advantage of that, because before you had guys like I don't know, Ward Dunn and Travis Minor, and just, you know, there's probably a bunch of others, guys going to Notre Dame, going to Florida State, going to Miami, just leaving the state. And Nick Saban was able to, you know, make it cool again for maybe not just him, maybe guys like Kevin Falk also, you know, some other great players. He made it cool for guys in Louisiana to go to LSU. And it's kept on going. You know, LSU's got some pipelines in Texas and in Florida. The Texas thing is kind of an interesting circumstance because of Hurricane Katrina. Like, yeah, you can like go right down the road and get a guy from Texas, and that's normal. But also, a lot of those guys LSU gets from Texas are actually from New Orleans. Guys like Grant Delpit, like, they're from he's from New Orleans. But yeah, the rivalry is interesting. But you know, I gotta appreciate Nick, because without him, then you know, LSU probably isn't that good. They're just okay. I'm 28 years old, and you know, paying attention to LSU's. You know, starting from '97, I've seen a few bad LSU teams, like very bad. Only maybe a couple, I'd rather say. But other than that, it's been, you know, the worst season I've seen is an 85 season. And you know, I get offended when somebody says LSU is going to go 85, but there's a lot of other teams that do a lot worse than that. So speaking of LSU having a bad season, you know, with these opt-outs going on, and like the opt-outs make sense to me. I'm not mad at Jamar Chase or, you know, Kerry Benson, Kyle Sheldon. Like, they won a championship last year. How the hell can I be mad at them? Like, you guys did it. Thank you.
Sure.
Anything else you do is just, you know, icing on top. Like, job well done. So, yeah, I think the biggest loss is Jamar Chase. I think if LSU has Jamar Chase, I'm looking at them as an 8-2 team, maybe a 9-1 team, if like things break right for them. But, and then the reason I say that is LSU's got, you know, a good receiving core. Terrace Marshall is a 5-star player. Arik Gilbert at tight end is going to be a matchup nightmare. And, you know, if I was saying one of these guys' name alone, and I think Racey McMath is going to be a very productive receiver. He's going to be an NFL receiver someday. And, you know, if I'm saying one of these guys' names, then, yeah, okay, how much do you expect one receiver to do? But those guys together with a guy like Jamar Chase, who just really tilts the field to himself. Like, if you don't double cover Jamar Chase, he's going to eat you alive. And yeah, Joe Burrow threw him some nice passes, but I remember a lot of instances where he just goes and gets the ball. Like, he jumps over a guy against Texas or against Vanderbilt, jumps over a guy against Alabama. So, like, Jamar makes people look bad if you cover him one-on-one. Even in practice against Derek Stingley, everybody says Derek Stingley is, you know, one of the top 5 players in college football. Jamar Chase makes Derek Stingley look silly in practice sometimes. So, yeah, without him, Miles Brennan's job gets a lot harder. There's going to be a lot of tighter windows. No one's going to feel sorry for LSU, don't get me wrong. They still got guys. But people are going to have to really step up. And, you know, 6 6-4 and 7-3 looks a lot more realistic now, from my point of view.
Yeah, I released my numbers
too worried
today,
about
and I had you at 7-3.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about the defense. Now, another thing is that we always talk about LSU from a standpoint of like what they lost, and then relative to their opponents, but no one ever talks about what their opponents lost. Like I look at a team like Auburn, who's not only lost Derek Brown, but they replaced just about every player in their secondary with somebody new. Half of those guys might be like good future pros. Actually, it's likely that some of them are. But you gotta give LSU the same benefit of the doubt. Like they got new players, but like everybody on last year's defense went to pros. Actually, what is it? LSU had three returning players, 3 returning starters. So does that mean every other returning or every other starter went pro?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
So like that doing that kind of thing should get you some kind of benefit of the doubt. Not undefeated, not Alabama benefit of the doubt, but something.
Well,
I think there's kind of just this cathartic reasoning where I think LSU did too good last year. Like maybe if they'd have toned it down a little bit, like had a few closer games, then people would take it easy on them.
Well, Lamar, the thing I've reminded people as I've gone through these SEC predictions that a 7-3 or 8-2 season in the SEC, we have to understand that a lot of those wins that have puffed up people's records are gone. There's no group of 5, there's no FCS, there's no non-conference games. So it's a 10-game gauntlet through the best conference in America. It's no longer the 8 games, which are typically 5 or 6 really tough ones, and possibly 2 or 3 not so tough, but even those are legitimate games. And then your 3 easy wins and maybe your tough non-conference game. Those are gone. So 7-3's earned.
Mm-hmm. I think the thing that will sink LSU this year is injuries. If LSU has injuries in the linebacking core, or the right defensive back gets injured, or offensive line injuries, which always happen actually, then it'll hurt them real bad. So yeah, that's all I got to say. I don't want to keep talking about LSU.
Appreciate the call, Lamar. You have a great night.
All right.
And we'll talk to you later. Thanks, man. Our guy, Lamar Stevens, been watching a long time, loves LSU football. Good insight on the Bayou Bengals. Have quite a road, although it starts off very lightly for LSU, so Miles Brennan may be able to get and establish that offense even without Jamar Chase. They've got out of the gate, I'm going to screw up the order, but it's some semblance of Vandy, Mizzou, and Mississippi State. I think it's Mississippi State, Vandy, Mizzou for LSU. So that's about as light as you can get in that conference to open up. And then it really gets rough for LSU. This is what I was talking about concerning LSU football. For those of you who weren't around from 1989 to when Nick Saban arrived in 2000, that's a long time. That's 11 or 12 seasons. 4-7, 5-6, 5-6, 2-9. Imagine LSU going 2-9 now. 5-6, 4-7. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 consecutive losing seasons. 6 consecutive losing seasons at LSU. 4-7, 5-6, 5-6, 2-9, 5-6, 4-7, 7-4-1, 10-2, won the Peach Bowl, 9-3, won the Independence Bowl, 4-7, 3-8. Okay, Nick Saban, 8-4, 10-3, 8-5, 13-1, won the national championship. 9-3, 11-2, 11-2, 12-2, won the national championship. And then, of course, great talent after that. A lot of disappointment. 8-5, 9-4, 11-2, 13-1, of course, with one of the great regular seasons in history. This gets lost in LSU being battered and shut out by Bama in the 11 national championship game. That they turned in one of the great season performances, regular season performances in the history of college football. They beat a top 5 Oregon team by 2 scores in Arlington in the opener. They beat a good Mississippi State team by 13. They beat a 10-3 West Virginia team by 26. They beat Florida by 30. They beat Tennessee by 31. They beat a good Auburn team by 5 touchdowns. They beat Bama, of course, in the epic game in Tuscaloosa in overtime by a field goal. They beat a really good top 5 to 10 ranked Arkansas team, an 11-2 Arkansas team by 24. They pummeled Georgia in the league championship game by 32 before Nick Saban had a month to prepare. And if you were paying attention, and I certainly took note of that at the time, I thought, Nick Saban, Les Miles. Les Miles is a character. He's fun. He's great to cover. Time management issues, game management issues. The one disappointment I have in running this channel is that I can't take LSU with Les Miles anymore, because I used to be on here like every 3 weeks talking about gaffes that Les Miles made in game management and clock management. He can run a program, inspire players. The players love him. They'll run through a brick wall for him. He needs somebody right next to him that runs the game when it comes to game situations and clock management. It's not Les Miles related, but in the same vein, on the next level, Herman Edwards, great coach as an inspirational and leader of young men. But when it comes to the nuts and bolts of game and clock management, he has been one of the worst. And I've got a few examples of Herm Edwards blowing games in the NFL. All right, let's see what else we can get to. Of course, the number to call in, there it is, 860-325-3687. If anybody's watching right now, it's 141 on the line, and we'll probably get about 2,000 to 3,000 views. If you're not subscribed, please consider it. We provide college football content every day, and even if you think, you know what, I don't need to subscribe because I just keep track of the channel and I go watch the videos. I understand that, but you're helping us build the channel. It's extremely important
The call will start at the beep.
to build a subscriber base. YouTube rewards a subscriber base, and also that way you hit the bell for the notifications. You know when we're going live. For example, tonight, I didn't know that I'd be able to go live at 11 o'clock Eastern time until about sometime in the afternoon. So that way you get locked in, you know when we're going live, which is almost every day. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, my name is Jacob. I'm a fourth-time caller, I believe. I called a few times and stuff. Talked about I talked to you the first time about the Buckeyes and stuff and everything, and then I called a few other times. Well, actually, one other time, and just telling about the testimony I had. But I was wondering. I was listening to LSU fan, and I was wondering if maybe I had a thought, and I've been thinking about. What do you think about the players wanting to? I don't know if it's can worms, but
it's about the players getting paid. And Mark, I just don't understand. Like, you start, I get it. They put their bodies on the line, you know, and I don't like this thing. But I just feel like, is there a certain point, Mark, where it feels like you start paying college football players? Is it college football anymore? And are you starting to kind of play a bad game and you might as well just name it NFL? You know, because it just feels like there's that natural, padding treatment, you don't get and other stuff. I guess my question is do you think that could affect college football? And I guess maybe I'm asking, like, honestly, I am, the morality of it, and just because we love college football because it's different than NFL, right? So I was just wondering what your thoughts on that, just a thought.
To pay the athletes is going to be similar to what we see with the transfer portal now. So I'm sure as a fan of your particular team, you take great pride that even though you watch NFL games, you know that whomever you root for in the NFL, that the players on that team, if you're a Cowboys fan, they could be playing for the hated Eagles the next year or the Redskins or the Giants. They move around and they play for whomever. So you're rooting for, to steal a line from Jerry Seinfeld, you're rooting for laundry. Well, that's never been the case in college football. You've always been able to latch onto that all-time favorite player, Desmond Howard, Tim Tebow, Rashawn Salam, whoever it is, and say they are always going to be a Buckeye. They're always going to be a Gator, a Seminole, a Trojan, and Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart. They never played for anybody else, and just have that pride that they're my guy and they will always be. But now we see in the transfer portal, I rarely come across a player now, a significant skill position player, especially when I look up their stats and I think, oh yeah, that's right, they transferred. So they've played for this team, and now we're seeing it all over the place. Just about, if we would run down every quarterback in college football, we'd see probably, I'm guessing, about 25 to 30% of them have played elsewhere. You know, Mississippi State starter this year is going to be KJ Costello, who was at Stanford. And, of course, Georgia's starter is going to be JT Daniels, most likely from USC. And Felipe Franks, the Arkansas starters, the former Florida quarterback, and on down the line. So that's a little disappointing. So to relate that to paying the players, I will start out by saying this, Jacob. In my opinion, we are already paying the players. And this is what I mean. They receive a scholarship. And I understand that doesn't put money in their pockets. But for anybody who values a scholarship and a college education, they know what that can do for them in life. So they're actually being paid, depends on the school, anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000 a year that they're already being paid. Now, again, I know that doesn't feed them, and a lot of them come from backgrounds in which they're struggling for money. So what I would like to provide for those college athletes is some type of but let's also understand, as long as they are connected to the team, whether it be in season or they're in spring practice or they're connected to the team, which is most of the year, they're eating for free too. They go with the team to the cafeteria, they eat. They're not needing to pay for that either most of the year. So I would like to see each player's financial situation be reviewed on the up and up. I'm not talking about some of the things that we know that go on out there, but on the up and up, that their family situation be reviewed and they be given an opportunity to at least feed themselves and have just a little bit of money, but not to be paid. Because as you mentioned, then you open up Pandora's box to all sorts of issues. Okay. Do you pay everybody on the roster exactly the same amount of money? Or do you pay even if you have, let's say, a player that comes from a wealthy family, do we need to pay him? Well, it depends on what side of the argument you are. On one hand, in terms of need, no, they don't need the money. But is it fair not to pay them and pay somebody else? And then on the other side, in regards to, if you're an Ohio State fan, we'll take the Buckeyes, for example. Does Justin Fields make the same amount of money as the third string left guard? Do you pay those two guys the same amount of money? Or do you, or if you try to pay some kind of merit scale based on how good the player is, then you get into a real mess of trying to determine, comparing players. And then you're going to create all sorts of resentment and ill feelings in the locker room.
Yes. Yeah. Mark, honestly, you actually hit it right on the nail. Because honestly, it's like, it's one of those things, like, if you can't do it for one, and it's not fair, you can't really do it for any. And I agree. I think they're trying to do the right thing, but they're maybe trying to do it the wrong way. Because I agree. Like, I don't think they should actually be paid, because it's not NFL. Like, it's college for a reason. But there is a lot of players that don't have very, good backgrounds, or, grew up in a bad neighborhood or something, and that's their outlet. And I think that they could come up with some way to help them. But like you said, what do you do with all that, And I guess one extra thing, maybe just incorporate, I guess, because I haven't been watching the whole show. I know I caught some of LSU. I wanted to kind of, if it's okay, reiterate something. I think that LSU was really good last year. I think their offense, their receivers are really good. Joe Burrow was obviously really good. I think Joe Brady helped that. I honestly, I'm sad to say it, which I didn't pay attention to their defense last year, but I actually do kind of agree with I'm not sure what his name was, but what he said about LSU's defense. I just think they're losing so much. I don't know how good they'll be, but I don't know. But I think that's kind of all I guess I have. But I'll say, I guess sometimes it upsets me, because I was a big fan of NCAA, and I get it though. That affects their guys' lives, and when they realize they're putting their blood, sweat, and tears in a program, it's just like I kind of feel like, they kind of ruin that for people that, didn't put, play that game, which that's an older generation thing. But, do you remember, I think, Tony Grimes, Mark, do you remember, I think, because he played for, he was recruited by Ohio State. I guess he plays for Florida now. I only know that because they have these mods literally on the NCAA community, and they got the exact rosters. I guess he plays for Florida now. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
I think
he's a receiver.
Well, because he was just talking about how so many transfers.
He caught about 15 passes last year. Let me see. Let me double check on that. I think he caught about 15 balls last year.
Real quick, Mark.
33 catches, Trevon Grimes last year. 33 catches, 3 touchdowns.
Well, that's not too bad. That's not real bad. I'm guessing just transfer is probably best for him. I think he's a Florida kid too, ain't he? I'm not sure, but.
All right, Jacob. We appreciate the call.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Thank you, Mark.
You have a great night.
Oh, you too. Thank you.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We take some more calls of yours at 860-325-3687 as I make my way through the live chat. And I've lost track of where I was, even though I had it marked. There we go. In the morning at 5 a.m., we will release our Alabama game-by-game prediction video. That will be the last of the SEC. You might be interested to see who I'm predicting to win the SEC Eastern Division. Next, we are moving on to the ACC. I don't have it in front of me, but I have made all my probability projections on all the ACC games. Compare those to the Football Power Index. I've written out all my wins and losses for the ACC. No, I need to do that, do the wins and losses, but I've done the probabilities, and so I will start working on those videos tomorrow. We'll march through the ACC, hopefully get to the Big 12 before next Thursday, which will be our first Power 5 game. I'm excited. We are one day away. I know we had Central Arkansas and Austin Peay last weekend, but tomorrow night we actually have a group of 5 game with Southern Miss taking on South Alabama. Southern Miss and South Alabama. We have SMU and I believe playing Texas State. Memphis has a game against Arkansas State. I will be locked in on those. I think on Saturday we actually have a noon game. Got a couple 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock games, and then we've got a night game, I think, with Memphis and Arkansas State, if I'm not mistaken. And then really our first semi-big game comes up on Monday night with BYU taking on Navy. So I'm going to be watching everything I possibly can this weekend. So we have yes, so on Thursday night, Central Arkansas UAB. We've got South Alabama Southern Miss. I'll watch that game on CBS Sportsnet, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. So, hey, who knows? Maybe we go live and we really talk up the South Alabama Southern Miss game. All right, Saturday, I'm going to watch Army and Middle Tennessee. These are games that I would not normally watch, but since they're on against nothing else, I'm watching them. SMU and Texas State, Arkansas State and Memphis, those games. Yeah, I can do without. Maybe I'll watch Eastern Kentucky and Marshall. That's a 1 o'clock game on ESPN Saturday. Then again, Monday night, BYU and Navy. Then we get the big boys in action next Thursday. So we are only, now that it is Thursday, only 7 days away, and I need to employ the countdown clock. We'll get that baby fired up. Justin Firm, I haven't heard from you in a long, long time, Justin Firm. He provided that countdown clock that we used all off season last year, and we'll get it back in play here as soon as I set it for next week's games, being the beginning of the Power 5. Maybe we can do that. The beginning of the Power 5, week 1 for the ACC and the Big 12. We'll set the countdown clock, and then I will set that as a countdown clock every Saturday night, Sunday morning, going into the next week's play, the next maybe Thursday night game. My screen had to refresh here. Okay. All right. Really, what is week 1 of college football? Sure, whatever you want to call it. Talking next week when the Power 5 starts to play. Thursday, UAB at Miami. Friday, SMU, TCU. Saturday, here we go. Because of no Big 10 and Pac-12 in particular, and to a lesser extent, of course, Mountain West and MAC. I went week to week the other day. I went through the entire schedule because I was trying to make some arrangements, and I just noticed I really missed the Big 10 and the Pac-12 because the depth of games isn't there. But whatever we can get, noon on that Saturday, next Saturday, it's our first Power 5 game on a Saturday with Miami playing and TCU on Thursday and Friday. But the first Power 5 versus Power 5 game, you know, I'm going to be locked in. North Carolina, Syracuse. I can't be too locked in because it's on the ACC network, which I don't get. All right. I'm the voice of college football. We should get all the networks, shouldn't we? They should be like free. Anyway, I haven't seen these game times yet. Iowa State, Louisiana, West Virginia, Eastern Kentucky at noon. on that Saturday. Talking again next Saturday. App State and Charlotte play at noon. Baylor, Louisiana Tech, that could be an entertaining game. But if I could watch any of those games, I'm watching North Carolina, Syracuse, just because it's 2 Power Fives. But I'm going to be subjected to looking at the other 3 or 4 games. But I would expect Baylor and Louisiana Tech to be the best game to watch, the closest game. Then at 2:30, we've got Notre Dame, Duke. And then our 3:30 games include Florida State, Georgia Tech. And Oklahoma's playing blowout game against Missouri State. Pitt's playing Austin Peay. And Wake Forest, Clemson. That's the 7:30 ABC game. That's how thin the schedule is without, again, this is without the Big Ten, the Pac-12, and the SEC. This is just with the 2 conferences playing. This is how thin the schedule is, that your primetime game on ABC is Clemson, Wake Forest. This has to be a first for Wake Forest, playing the prime ABC game. Okay. We also have that night, okay, Oklahoma State and Texas are in action, but in terms of good matchups, that's pretty much it. That's all we've got. That's how thin the schedule is. That's how thin the schedule is, but it's college football. Basically, if you're into Power 5 football and watching, well, not even the better teams play, just Power 5 games, really this is all we've got. North Carolina, Syracuse. Notre Dame, Duke. Florida State, Georgia Tech. Clemson, Wake Forest. And that's it, because it's only the ACC, the Big 12 are playing those non-conference games. So, hey, it's college football. And it's very sparse and very thin, but it's there. And it's here. And for those of you who were here with me for Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, the 2019 season, you know that we blow it out as big as we possibly can every Saturday. We were on before the games at noon. We were on after the noon games. Like we would click on the live stream during the final drives of the best noon games. So at about 3:15, we were coming on here for the final couple drives to watch the drives together. Let's say Minnesota and Purdue are playing, and Oklahoma State and Kansas State are the 2 best games at noon. We're coming on here with about 3 minutes left in the game. We're watching the end of those games, analyzing those games and everything that happened at noon. Then we would shut down. We'd watch everybody, let everybody go watch the 3:30 games. And I'd set the DVR so I could tape the first quarter while we were on here. And then I'd catch up and I'd watch the complete 3:30 games. And then come back on here at about 7:15. We'd analyze those 3:30 games and get you set for the 7 and 8 o'clock games. And then let you go watch the primetime games. Then we come back at 11:30 or midnight, do the same thing, track those late night Pac-12 games, and we might stay on until 3 o'clock in the morning. Because of my work schedule, not going to be able to do that much this year. I'm going to be able to do that for about half a day. Unfortunately, that kills me, because I was used to having Friday, Saturday off forever, and now my schedule's been screwed with. And therefore, we compromise our channel content. That's why you contribute to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. If you see the vision, you know where I'm headed. All right. Anything else, folks? If there are any comments, questions, debate topics, anything that you left in the live chat that I've missed and you would like me to get to it, please just copy and paste it and leave it in the comment section of any of the videos, please. If you love what we do here, even if you don't agree with me, if you like what we do in presenting college football each and every day, and our mission statement is to deliver the best in discussion, debate, and analysis, please like the videos, and more importantly, share these videos on social media. We need to build the audience and the subscriber base, so get your friends and your family and anybody you know who loves college football, get them on board, right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Thank you so much for all that you do. We will be back live maybe tomorrow, but certainly on Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern time, Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern time with Ohio State football talk, Saturday at 11 in the morning to talk Miami, right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We will see you next time. Getting Even Buckeye Show Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern time. Tube Seller, I did not ignore your super chats. I appreciated them. I recognized them. I brought them to the screen. I didn't think there was actually a question on them. I read them. I do need support. I did not, would never. I am the last person on YouTube who would ignore a super chat. If anything, I am humbled by the super chat. So Tube Seller, because of the application I'm on, I cannot go back and retrieve them, but I posted both of them on the screen. I can go over here and look for them if you had some kind of comment that I missed, but I don't believe I really missed your comments. I posted them to the screen. Give it a look here. So hopefully, Tube Seller, let me know that you're still there. Otherwise, I'm talking to no one. So Tube Seller, let me know that you're there. Mary! This is Mary's first comment to the channel. She has left her mark. Mary Dean, good to see you. Glad you could stop by. I expect probably like a $75 super chat from you very, very soon. Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, I'm waiting for Tube Seller. There he is. Okay, Tube Seller. Let's see what I can do for you. I posted both of your super chats to the screen, and they are, I cannot in any way explain how much they're appreciated. Believe me. Thank you. I am humbled by your super chat contribution. How do I don't know. Let me see while I'm still in the air. Give me a second here. And I should be able to go back in. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go back that far. We will see, because I can't do it on here. Let me get through the commercial. See if I can go that far back. I probably can't. I can't. Yeah, I can only go back to when #1 ND fan said, Mark, is this the year that something the best chance of the group of 5 going undefeated and making the playoffs? I talked about that the other day. I don't believe so. And I gave some reasoning. That's as far back as I can go. The Big Ten vote is Friday. Yes, that's what we understand. Is that what you asked? JFF, or I'm sorry, JJF. I thought the show was ending as well, but I want to make sure that everybody's satisfied, especially a super chat contribution. And there were apparently 2 comments that I didn't address, even though I took those to the screen and read them off. Tube Seller, no worries. Have a good night. Yes, that is what I asked. Yeah, I think other people had answered that. I wasn't positive about that, but that's what I saw online. But I didn't see that as an official statement about a Friday Big Ten vote. And Tube Seller and anybody else, if you have particular comments or questions that I didn't get to, that's not intentional on my part. Of course, I'm taking calls for 5 and 10 and 15 minutes. And so I have to go by a ton of, if I stopped at the first question, then I would never be able to advance anywhere close to far enough. I'd get hung up forever in putting that first question on the screen. So I can't get to all the questions and comments, but if you have any one in particular that you would like me to answer, then please do that. James Scott, I've got the predictions page up, Mark. You talk about my predictions? All right, JJF, appreciate it. Everybody else, we appreciate it. Tube seller as well, technician, technical technician. All right, good enough. We will see you guys soon. Have a great night.